So if you were starting over today with your skill set, but with no capital or with limited capital, say you have a 5-figure portfolio or a low 6-figure portfolio, how would you go about trying to get back to where you are? Like, what would be your strategy? Assuming you had potentially not even the network you have, like what would be the things that you think are the important diet for someone who's trying to make it, who's got that dog in them? They understand. Let's just give them even the advantage of saying they have your trading system. What would you look to do, and how would you think like the key steps are to get to a place where you can start generating, an incredible portfolio like you have?
Yeah, so I think you have to do a few things simultaneously. So I think for me, I tried my best to position myself as both a player within public and private markets. So looking at various asset classes. So looking at oil, gold and silver, crypto, equities, all of these different asset classes. And then looking at the charts, seeing what the key levels are, seeing the market structure, seeing what could potentially form from them, and then identifying what triggers you would enter based on some sort of breakout that would happen or breakdown that would happen on those particular charts. So I think having those setups laid out is important, and then showing up every day. So this is on the public market side. So you have to show up every day. You don't have to trade every day. That's the key thing here. So don't trade every day necessarily. I think there will be periods of time in which you can feasibly trade every day, but those are rare times in the market. So something like, the semiconductor boom over the past few months, that's something you could have traded every day because those were trends that were forming that were, some of the highest momentum I've ever seen in public markets. And that's fine. There's all-time high breakouts every day, playing those sort of trends. And whatever you do, you basically continue to take profits and then you just do nothing. So pretty much the entire game of trading is waiting. 95%, 99% of your time in trading is literally just sitting on your hands and waiting. So you show up for a few minutes every day, you look at the charts, and then you go back to doing absolutely nothing. And then maybe you set alerts at key levels, and then you just go back and then you just, do your job, play golf, whatever, and then you just wait. And then if there's a breakout, then you identify the structure after that breakout, see if it's valid, and then you might play that and define your validations and then go from there. But for me, there are periods of time over the past few years, especially, from February through March of the past month, I didn't trade at all. I didn't do a single trade for several weeks. And this is something that catches people off guard because there's a lot of those day trading gurus where they're like, oh, I'm trading every single day and making X money, and they're showing their Lambos and stuff like that. Those guys are trying to sell you something. I think for me, I've understood trading. I've tried everything. I've tried, moving averages. I've tried Elliott waves. I've tried every possible thing possible. But those things have not worked for me. They haven't, yielded consistent results. I've tried following people on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever, YouTube. Those haven't worked. The only thing that's worked is really constraining all of the possible assumptions I'm making with the market, and then being very selective with those trades. So I basically don't trade unless there's a brain dead obvious setup that's happening, and otherwise I just go back to doing absolutely nothing. And so that's why I don't think day trading works, is because the connotation of day trading is that you're trading every day to make that day's dinner. You're trading, to make $30 so you can pay for dinner. But then you start looking in the charts for setups that aren't there. It's like male astrology. I always say that TA or, technical analysis is like male astrology, where you're trying to find things that confirm your bias that don't exist, right? You're looking to draw lines and you're trying to draw these patterns and shapes. Most of those don't work. You're just basically seeing things that aren't there. And so most of the time when the market is going up a lot, it's very obvious. And you kind of just wait for those moments, you play those times, and then you take profits, and then you go back to doing absolutely nothing. You don't overtrade. You don't try to enter a setup unless you see something that aligns with your original system. There's no greed. There's no FOMO. You're just waiting. And that's the key with trading. It's just being able to wait. And on the private market side, while you're doing this public market trading, maybe there's days where you're not trading, right? And then you go and network. You go say, okay, I'm going to go to this conference, right? I'm going to go to somewhere, maybe there's South by Southwest in Austin. Maybe I'm going to go there to meet with investors. I'm going to go to an angel investor event somewhere else. And you just keep going to these events, meeting people, getting deal flow. And then even if you don't have the capital yourself, right? Let's say you're starting with 10 grand or whatever, you can introduce people together and broker some deals together. And I think, you don't even have to do anything crazy. It could just be someone invests 1 million into something and you get 1% of it, right? And you just keep building from there to the point where you have a base where you can invest, a certain amount of money into these private market deals. And it's not about the minimum investment. It's about building relationships, because someone will want you on your cap table if you're able to be a good friend to them, be someone that provides them value. So a lot of times that requires you to maybe create content, I think that's the easiest way to do it. Is if you create content, if you have a distribution edge, then that's a very important edge that you can have. And that's not something you have to be a rocket scientist for. You don't have to be the best trader, the best software engineer, as long as you're able to have an audience and that has value. We're even seeing today, there's people from, there's this woman named Claire Zhao. I think she's working at Lightspeed right now as a partner. She was a content creator for like maybe a year or two before then. And then she was able to just take that content distribution funnel, and then that was value for the VC, and then she got hired as partner. So as long as you have that sort of distribution edge, or just build skills as an engineer, maybe you're investing in AI and maybe you're just very good at deep learning or machine learning, then you build those skills and then you just are able to use that as a way to connect with other people. And then that's kind of the way you play things, I think, if you don't have much money.